Welcome to our live stream for tonight. This is the blockchain. This is the blockchain live stream. It's been over 8 weeks since I've done this, and frankly, you get a little rusty in 8 weeks. So here we go. So I'm looking forward to seeing each one of you. Robert, if you'll post the call for people, identifying their names and stuff that are there. What we do is we take roll at the beginning and we take roll at the end, just to check, see who's here and see what's going on. So we, look forward to everybody being here. Mostly we look forward to good conversation. The questions are posted in the chat window. When I look just to my left a little bit, I'm looking at the chat window and I'm looking for questions. And so I'll try to answer the questions as quickly as I notice. In the room also with me is Robert. He is my assistant. He runs the soundboard and the visuals. He makes sure that I appear on the screen the way that I appear now, and he changes it when it's appropriate so that I can do presentations and so forth, show websites and various items. So today we're going to kind of kick off the class by talking about what is blockchain for business, and that'll be our topic of the night. So we want to answer as many questions about why this course, number one, is required, and why it's so important that you have an understanding as you get an IT degree and move into the world of business, because there's a lot of interest in blockchain being used for business. And so today we're going to make sure that we understand the boundary line between cryptocurrencies and blockchain for business, because while they use similar technologies, they're not the same thing. So we're going to talk about that quite a bit. So I see Luke and Justin and Ronan and Emmy, Ariana and Paula. Okay. Morgan, Gavin, Chase, Jeffrey, Trevor, Nicholas, Alex, Haley, Shane, Dylan, and Tyler so far. That's good. We have a full class, by the way. Full class constitutes 25 people. So it's a good chance for everybody to really throw ideas around, throw comments around, find out who is familiar with what. And as we play around a little bit with polls and gather data and information about everybody, it allows us to understand. Like, for example, we have a poll about who is invested in cryptocurrencies, for example, or who is familiar with cryptocurrencies. Robert, you want to find that poll and go ahead and put it up?
Sure.
So that's one way to get information from and start the discussion a little bit. Cryptocurrencies are an interesting topic. Governments do not like them. At least most governments do not like them. In fact, the world governments, the World Economic Forum and the IMF, International Monetary Fund, neither one of them like cryptocurrencies. So they are battling, so to speak, with governments that accept cryptocurrencies, like El Salvador is accepted Bitcoin as their legal tender within their country. And they have huge Bitcoin mines on top of some geothermal energy plants. And the geothermal energy plants provide virtually free electricity so that they can mine blockchain, mine Bitcoin in particular. And they mine the Bitcoin and it goes into their treasury and allows them to then pursue the business of government. And slowly the populace is picking up more and more of the idea of using Bitcoin. So, okay, we have the first poll up there. And so if you'll go ahead and answer the poll, each one of you, we'll get an idea of exactly what kind of experiences everybody has had, and then we'll if we get everybody to respond quickly. Robert, how many responses do we have so far?
We have 13 votes at the moment.
Okay, I know we have 13 more people, so more than 13 people. So let's everybody respond. Yeah, we have 16 that I see there. So when we get up to 16, Robert, we'll call it and see what the results are.
Yep, we're at 16 votes total.
Okay, let's see the results for everybody. Okay, so have you ever bought crypto before? Was the survey, and 41% of this class. Now that's high compared to other classes. Other classes have been as low as 5% that have actually bought crypto. So that's interesting. A lot of more people fit in the no, but I'd like to category than what we currently have. Not really interested in, yes, you've bought Bitcoin only. So 46% have bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, and 5 buying Bitcoin only. So that's interesting. Especially interesting knowing that Bitcoin is in the 43,000 range when a couple months ago it was right around 29,000. So hopefully those of you who have bought it before have seen a little bit of an uptick in the amount that you've purchased. So that's kind of interesting. 17 votes. So there must be 17 folks. Oh, did you vote, Robert?
No.
Nope, you didn't? Okay. I have bought Bitcoin before. I have a little bit of Bitcoin, not much. I have BAT because I use Brave, the BAT token. And I have a little bit of, because I use the Coin app, the one that's geolocation, mining coins as you go from place to place. That is an Ethereum token called XYO. So I exchanged that and withdrew it. And there's my drink. I need a little bit of drink. So I have a little bit of that. So not really a whole lot of holdings. We're currently working on getting into our next house, so we're saving a little bit for that. And so priorities are a little different right now. Okay. So, anybody have any questions? First off, has anybody having trouble getting to the book, getting to read the Blockchain for Business book? All right, I'm not getting any positive responses. I know we had one student that for a time there didn't see the link for the spring 2024 materials, and the link just was missing. So got that resolved, and that's the only one that I had heard of. So good, glad to see that everybody else was able to get in and see the book. Maybe there's some that haven't even looked yet. So if you have troubles, please let me know, and we'll see what we can get done for you. So let's go ahead and go to the presentation there, Robert. And I will, there we go. My cursor's in the right place. Okay, and you're going to remove the Blockchain Live Conversation Part 2. There it goes. Okay, very good. It took a while to disappear on my screen. There's a little bit of delay when I look at the presentation, so actually it's a little disconcerting, but at least I know what's going on and kind of what you're seeing, so that's good. So what is Blockchain for Business? I'm going to go through this in the eyes of some of the articles that you're going to find for the Wednesday night article posts. And I'm going to go through it through that lens because most of the time they will refer to just blockchain and how blockchain is this and blockchain is that. And the only way you can tell that they're talking about cryptocurrencies is that they'll refer to cryptocurrencies and they'll never talk at all about businesses. And you'll also see some very peculiar information there that is not correct when we're talking about blockchain for business. So let's start at that level if we could. So basically, I've got this picture of this wonderful darling here, and she's holding out an apple and an orange. Okay, you've got public blockchains, and the public blockchains are the Ethereum and Bitcoin and other public blockchains. Now, the two biggest of those, of course, are Ethereum and Bitcoin. When we talk about blockchain for business, though, we're going to be talking about private blockchains. And they are quite different in comparison, although they use the same underlying technology called blockchain. But that's where the similarity pretty much ends at that point. So let's talk about the two and see what those major differences are. So we're going to compare the two, the public versus private blockchains, and then I'll show you a couple articles where the person that wrote the article is speaking about public blockchains, and they're criticizing blockchains for being this and that, but private blockchains are totally different. And biggest difference is in the consensus method. Now, the consensus method is what blockchains use to get agreement on each transaction. Now, as each transaction gains agreement, it gets sent out to all of the distributed network, and each of the distributed network puts an entry on the ledger for that particular transaction. Now, in a heavyweight consensus method like Bitcoin uses, you have computers doing a lot of work in order to make sure that the network stays secure. In a private network, everybody who is in that network is known. In other words, in a public network, you can join that public network and you are totally anonymous. On a private network, you're going to log in. You're going to get permission to log in with a username and a password from an administrator before you even use the technology. So the consensus method doesn't need to prove who you are, where the consensus method in public has to prove that you're not going to be an enemy to the blockchain or try to take it for a fraud. Okay? So the next piece then is the security base is based on the consensus method in a public blockchain, but the security is based on the login in a private blockchain. So let's say that you're logging into your company's supply chain management system, and it is based on a blockchain network that is also connected to a lot of your different suppliers. Everybody within that blockchain is going to be logged in, and you'll know who the suppliers are and who has which role within that blockchain. Don't have to worry about a nefarious character getting in there and doing damage anonymously, because anybody that does damage, you know exactly who was logged in and who did what, and you kick them out the next day. But because a public blockchain is totally anonymous, you've got to basically keep out the hackers, and by keeping out the hackers, you do that with encryption and security based on the consensus method. So because of the security and the heavyweight consensus method, the transaction speeds are very slow. Bitcoin has often been criticized for the fact that you can only finish a transaction every 10 minutes. So when I do a Bitcoin transaction, if I'm working, let's say on Coinbase, so I do a transaction, it looks to me like it's immediate. But what happens, though, is that transaction is still working through the system, and about 10 minutes later, it's finally written deep enough into the blockchain, and the consensus method has said, yes, this is a good transaction. The block then closes every 10 minutes. When it closes, then the transaction is actually finalized, even though to us it looked like it got finalized right at the very beginning. Because security is based on the login and the consensus method is based on just validating that the transaction has all the bits and pieces that it needs to be a valid transaction, the transaction speeds are very fast in a private network. Some of those blockchains can process as many as 2 billion transactions per second, where you can't even come close to that on a Bitcoin network. So, based on the consensus method, there's a high amount of energy consumption with a Bitcoin network, and it's often criticized as not being green enough, using too much electricity. In fact, the entire Bitcoin network is compared to Finland in the fact that the Bitcoin network takes more energy to process its transactions per day than Finland uses the entire country per day. So kind of quite a dramatic comparison there. But a private blockchain, low energy consumption because it's basically an application sitting on their desktop. It consumes no more energy than any other database type of transaction processing system. So it doesn't consume a whole lot of energy. So next one, interoperability is criticized. Like, for example, let's say I want to do a transaction between two different DeFi or distributed finance applications. I generally can't do it without a thing called a bridge technology. Now, that bridge technology oftentimes has been criticized because hackers love them. Most of the hacking that's being done is either being done in the smart contracts or it's being done in these bridges between two networks. So it's a challenge with getting interoperability between two networks. So you have to end up having an exchange, somewhat like a stock exchange, although it's a coin exchange where you can exchange, Bitcoin for Ethereum and different Ethereum tokens to between them. There's little need for interoperability on a private blockchain. It's single focused. Usually it has simply it's a supply chain, or it's managing your inventory or many different items like that. Not much need to be interoperable between other systems. And frankly, blockchain is quite interoperable on a private blockchain when you're talking about two different supply chains written on blockchain. So a lot of times, if you're going to a specific vendor, you can interop with another vendor that's had the same, with another company that's been using the same vendor. So we'll talk more about that as we get farther into what business blockchains are. So let's go forward. So I'm going to highlight two different articles. Forbes loves to criticize cryptocurrencies, and this is one of their articles. It says the 5 biggest problems with blockchain technology that everyone must know about. The world's going to come to an end if you don't know about all these things, I love these inflammatory titles to articles because they're kind of fun that way. The next one is our good people at Cointelegraph. 5 major challenges in the blockchain industry. Okay. Now, if you search for those, just based on the title, both of those could deal with blockchain or for business or blockchain for crypto, and you really don't know anything until you get down into that, except that Cointelegraph is probably going to be in the crypto space, where the Forbes article, you don't know. Except that they're in their digital assets area. Maybe they're talking about crypto. So let's dig further into the article and see what happens. So the Forbes article starts with these 5 menu items. They say security issues, scalability, low interoperability, high energy consumption, low workforce availability. So what I want to do now is address each of those issues and see what they say about them and compare them to what a blockchain for business would work like. So the first one, let's go look at security issues. Now, this article says blockchain technology has undeniably captured the imagination of the tech world and beyond, offering the promise of decentralized, transparent, and tamper-proof systems. From its inception with Bitcoin to the development of smart contracts, non-fungible tokens, and decentralized finance, blockchain has been hailed as a groundbreaking innovation with potential applications in numerous industries. So here's where he really confuses a lot of things. First off, he's saying it started with Bitcoin. Absolutely true. Satoshi Nakamoto, when he built the first Bitcoin network, used blockchain as its underlying security system, and it has progressed since then to the development of Ethereum with smart contracts, and then we've got non-fungible tokens and distributed finance and all those things. But then he goes, hailed as groundbreaking innovation with potential applications in numerous industries. Well, okay, so obviously he's going to talk about blockchain for business too. Okay, but along with blockchain's advantages come significant challenges. And to reach its full potential as a game-changing technology, these issues will need to be overcome. So then they say, let's take a look at some of the most pressing problems facing blockchain today. Okay? The problem is that Bernard Marr, who wrote this article, is going to now launch into it, and he's going to take all the criticisms of blockchain in the crypto space and say all of these problems have to be solved, but he doesn't ever differentiate beyond this point that there's any difference between crypto versus blockchains that are written specifically for a business purpose. So let's move on. This article for Cointelegraph, when it talks about security concerns, talks about blockchain technology designs, for example, differ in architecture. Some are more secure than others. Decentralized blockchains are, for example, more susceptible to 51% attacks than centralized ones. Okay, that's a strange statement. This has caused a few problems for crypto enthusiasts who prefer to keep their assets on decentralized chains. Well, interesting. Decentralized blockchains are more susceptible to 51% attacks than centralized ones. Well, since centralized ones have 100% of all of the computing power in a centralized location, they are susceptible to whatever the centralized authority wants to do. If they want to do nefarious things, like steal your money, they could just walk off with it. Well, decentralized blockchains can be susceptible to 51% attacks, meaning that if the hacker has to control 51% of the processing network in order for them to then take over the network and push transactions through that basically steal coin. It's much less susceptible. Distributed blockchains are much less susceptible to 51% attacks than a centralized one that has 100% of the computing power in one place. So kind of an odd statement. So yes, you do want to put your crypto on decentralized chains. That's basically the point there. Okay, let's talk about flash loan attacks. Other security problems in blockchain networks have faced is flash loan attacks. These type of attacks are usually levered against smart contracts. So if you're talking smart contracts, you're only talking about a couple blockchains, Ethereum and a few others that have smart contract ability. The DeFi ecosystem, because they offer non-collateralized loans, is where the problem occurs. Most networks also have lax know your customer requirements. In other words, they don't know who's on their network. Lax meaning they don't know who's on their network at all, because usually they're anonymous. And so attackers can make use of arbitrage loopholes to manipulate the token value and withdraw profits to other networks, effectively laundering the money. All of those statements are about 80% true. The flash loan attack, basically they take a loan out, they get the money for the loan before they provide the collateral. Most DeFi systems have immediate one-for-one collateral for each of the loans that are given. But the ones that have been hacked, and this is not all of them, most of them are written better than the ones that got attacked. But the ones that got attacked and had their money stolen was when they'd give the money for the loan out before they accepted the collateral in return. And during that small space of time, and it is very small, hackers have been able to get rid of the money before they put the collateral in and stolen the money that way. So yes, they're susceptible. Smart contracts in general are susceptible to hacks. In fact, 99% of the attacks out there where money has been lost due to the coding is in the smart contracts. Literally, nearly 100%. So let's move on. Coding loopholes. Yes, definitely. Besides hack attacks, blockchain systems. Now, he doesn't differentiate what part of the blockchain system. They're susceptible to coding loopholes. Centralized blockchains are usually more vulnerable, as all hackers have to do is undermine specific points of failure. That's true. All your power in one place, they've only got one place to attack. Blockchains that are centralized are really no better than having a data warehouse and having all your data in one system that's all kept in your one data repository at your data warehouse. Hackers can attack that just as easily as they can attack a centralized blockchain. In fact, why even have a blockchain if it's going to be centralized? It doesn't really make sense, and we'll learn more about that as the class progresses. So in many instances, entities holding the blockchain keys, such as private keys, are targeted. Okay, so that statement basically refers to places like Coinbase, where they hold the blockchain private keys, and you only hold your public key for your money that's deposited in a centralized location, such as blockchain or any other exchange. So that's an issue there. Okay, so that's their security concerns. Okay, centralization. I've hit on centralization several times already. It's just stupid to have a blockchain and then have it be centralized. That just doesn't make sense. The whole idea of a blockchain is that it is decentralized. They have decentralized ledgers. The transactions are put on those ledgers and they're encrypted and they're distributed so that you'd have to hack 100 different places or more in order to actually make any progress getting any money out of the actual blockchain portion of the ledger. Like, for example, how often do you hear of Bitcoin being stolen in any place other than just an exchange who had bad coding, like, Mt. Gox at the very beginning? You don't hear about blockchain being stolen out of the pure blockchain system. Not much happens there. Okay, so let's move on. Bernard Marr's security concerns. Blockchain security measures have often been touted as key strengths of the technology, and that is true. But the security of blockchain networks is not without its challenges. Okay? That statement is patently false. Okay? The actual blockchain network is of the strength of the whole technology. There have been interested in instances of security breaches and hacking attacks on blockchain networks. Okay, let's read on. And these problems can result in monetary losses and damage to the integrity of the network. Okay, when I do my research, and there's a lot of articles, you'll see articles that'll say, so many dollars stolen from blockchains in the year. Every time they do a deep dive into those, you'll find that it relates to a smart contract or it relates to a new distributed finance system, and they've stolen money because of flash loans or other things that we mentioned in the Coin Telegraph article. So what we're going to look at here is what he says is the solution. He says to mitigate risks, companies are working to improve the security of blockchain networks and applications. It's the applications that are the problem, usually not the network. Their security efforts include formal verification of smart contracts. Yay, that's good. To help identify potential vulnerabilities. In other words, test your smart contracts. Don't just roll them out the day that you finished coding them and expect them to be 100% good, because a lot of times these hacks come the 2 or 3 days after the first patch or the first blockchain has rolled out with new coding. And using multi-signature wallets for storing and managing digital assets. So all those are good, but the smart contracts is the place to worry, definitely worry the most. But you find very different smart contracts if you're talking about a supply chain or an inventory system or managing the origins of, let's say, the wine that you sell, or the medicines that are sold, or the produce that comes from farmers' fields all the way to the shelves in a Walmart, for example. Those smart contracts, you don't steal money from them. They hold information and they manage the collection of the data and the presentation of the data, but those smart contracts are very, very different. So when you hear about money lost in smart contracts, you're always going to be talking about the cryptocurrency side of the issue. So let's move on to his next issue of low scalability. And this one's actually pretty easy. Bernard Marr says, blockchain networks can be slow and inefficient due to high computational requirements needed to validate transactions. Well, what's he talking about here? Well, he's talking about proof of work style of validating transactions. Proof of work requires a lot of computational power, and the computational power is based on the complexity of the problems that the computers are meant to solve, which is totally not needed in private blockchains. So moving on, as the number of users, transactions, and applications increases, the ability of blockchain networks to process and validate them in a timely way becomes strained. That is absolutely true for both Ethereum and for Bitcoin, but it's not true in the private sector, where the consensus method is totally lightweight. This makes blockchain networks difficult to use in applications that require fast transaction processing speeds. Not necessarily true unless you're talking about public blockchains, where they need to process transactions fast, but they need to do it well. Part of the challenge is that if you try to compare a blockchain or Bitcoin network to, let's say, Visa or MasterCard, Visa or MasterCard hands down wins the race, because they can process millions of transactions per second, and Bitcoin struggles to process nearly that many. We're talking about thousands of transactions. It struggles to process each second. So as we look at Cointelegraph, their scalability talks about scalability issues are plaguing both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Already they're talking about just the cryptocurrency side. So it says estimated over 80% of blockchain projects are based on the Ethereum blockchain, with the explosion of progress on the networks in recent years has caused significant scalability problems. In the particular Ethereum, if you don't understand how they pay for their transactions, it's called gas. So you add more fuel and you pay a higher gas fee, and it gets processed at a higher priority. And you had to do that with Ethereum, and the gas fees just got astronomical. I remember trying to withdraw $100 and the gas fee was going to be $95. It's kind of hard to move any sort of money around unless you're moving a large sum of money. Your gas fees just become too high a percentage, and you might as well just leave it there. So let's move on to the next one. Low interoperability. So for some reason, Bernard Marr is concerned about this. Interoperability, or the ability of different blockchain networks to communicate and interact with each other, is another crucial challenge facing the industry. Okay. It might in the crypto space. I've never seen a need for different blockchains to converse with each other. I thought, exchanges did a good job there. So this lack of interoperability in the next paragraph can lead to inefficiencies. They don't give a use case for this. They don't say exactly where the problem is. So he says can lead to inefficiencies, may need to navigate multiple platforms, and fragmentation can also hinder collaboration, but he provides no examples. So, let's move on. Bernard we'll move on to energy consumption, because of course Bernard's going to be concerned about the blockchain network, Bitcoin in particular, where blockchains, require a lot of energy to compute through all of the data, all the computations in order to secure the network. So it really becomes significantly challenging. Now, Ethereum just switched over to proof of stake. Thank you. POS. When I see POS, I say point of sale. Okay, not point of sale. What's that other thing? Proof of work. So they consume less energy, but still they still consume energy, and they're still, proof of stake is still quite labor intensive as far as getting all of the nuts and bolts together in order to get transactions done. In other words, when Ethereum went and kept the same network and went from proof of work to proof of stake, were not able to increase the number of transactions per second. They're going to have to do that with the next iteration that comes, that is going to use sharding instead of just a regular proof of stake, which basically is multitasking, multiple computing devices being able to hack through the same data at the same time and make it faster. So Cointelegraph basically has the same issue. Starts off with Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchain systems among the most popular. They're energy intensive. This article was written before the release of Ethereum 2, where they went to proof of stake. So here's where it says that it uses approximately 100 terawatt hours of electricity every year. This is more than the amount of energy used in countries such as Finland. So that's where I got that example from. So moving on, let's talk about low workforce availability. Now, here's where you guys might be really interesting. The blockchain industry has experienced an explosion in non-fungible tokens and DeFi or distributed finance projects over the past year, causing problems in the labor market. Yes, you guys that are in the security area, in cybersecurity, you guys have a sweet spot in the market, but blockchain is also beginning to challenge the cybersecurity folks in the amount of demand for blockchain programmers. So if you're more of a programmer instead of a security sort of guy, you might find a home in companies that need more blockchain talent over the next few years. This particular year notes a 300% increase over the previous years, and there's a lot of startups that are scrambling for good talent that have had some experience, but heck, it's a new industry. There's not a whole lot of people that have a whole lot of experience yet. So, jump in with both feet. That might find a home for you there. So what I want to do is say thank you for watching this presentation. If you like it, I'm going to post this as a standalone video for everybody to watch also. Hopefully, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do it and get other videos like this. And we can hope to see you coming to the channel a lot as time goes on. So let's turn it over for questions. Do we have any questions for me today before we launch into this coming week? It's been a quiet audience. Usually we play games to get people talking, but let's we could put another poll out there.
I've actually been rather impressed by how much Ethereum has been working to reduce their energy usage, for Ethereum. It has become the biggest blockchain, even though it's not the price as high as Bitcoin. It's being used with so many different applications. Them moving over to proof of stake was really absolutely essential.
Yeah,
glad they do that. And do you remember that Bitcoin is having its rewards here
next May?
In April.
April this year?
April of this year, it'll be having its rewards, which that's going to have another big impact on how much energy is expended. A whole lot of people are going to be shutting off their old miners, which isn't a bad thing. So, we do have a
Okay,
question.
on the article HW, what's HW? Is it just an article about blockchain?
Homework?
Oh, does HW mean homework? Okay. On the article homework, is it just an article about blockchain? Yes. What you want to do is you want to search for an article that talks about blockchain for businesses, what businesses are doing to use blockchain. Okay. So you want to avoid the articles like the two that I highlighted here. These were both posted by other students. And what I wanted to do is get this off on the right foot by showing you what an article looks like that is a business article rather than a cryptocurrency article. Okay? There are a lot of reporters that want to think that they're blockchain experts, but they've got blinders on when they look at things and they only see the cryptocurrency side and they don't have any clue that there's a business side out there. They kind of hear this idea that maybe it's used for supply chains and a few other things, but all they ever hear about is the blockchain, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency side. So, not really a question, but today the SEC proved 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs, and guess what? That was fake. The SEC later on came out with a statement, said that they were hacked, and that message was actually not true, that they have not actually approved those ETFs. So, yes, we saw the Bitcoin price go way up, and then we saw it go right back down to where it was. So, sorry.
Although I do have to say that Bukele's Twitter account, the president of El Salvador, was rather laughing at everybody here in the United States who wish they were as free as he is to use Bitcoin for everything. But it was kind of funny, rather interesting comments around it.
Yes. Oh, now Rachel, you said you go by Paula, okay, or you go by Rachel, but Paula is your name. Okay, I think it's go by Rachel. Okay. Is there mistrust with Ethereum? Yes, for a long time there was. And what Rachel is referring to there is the hard fork that they had to have because somebody created a distributed finance application and somebody immediately got in and hacked and literally stole millions of coins. And they had to then drop it back and hard fork it. And it was a hard decision. In fact, there's whole books that have been written about all the things that went on to create that decision. And what's his name? Head of Ethereum?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I know his name most time. If I didn't want to remember it. Okay. Oh, that's really interesting. It's still posted on CBS News. Yeah. It's amazing. They get the scoop and they keep on scooping. Anyway.
You know, the way I look at the issues with Ethereum and the DeFi hacks and everything, it's you have this nice massive vault door, you know, that's absolutely impenetrable, and then you give the combination to somebody. It doesn't matter how impenetrable it is if you have the combination. That's the way the DeFi hacks work. You're not breaking the blockchain. You're not defeating the vault door. You just know the key to get in because somebody coded a key improperly and allowed a whole bunch of hacks to happen. So it's one of those vulnerability. Yes, the big vulnerability of the vault door is that you know the combination. Congratulations, you're a genius.
And so basically, you know, don't ever buy into a brand new deployment of this greatest whiz-bang thing to come about since sliced bread. Generally, the people that do that and jump in with both feet and let's invest millions here because we're going to make 20% on our money or 50% of our money or, oh, good heavens, like FTX, you know. SBF or Sam Bankman-Fried described it like this. He says you create a box and you know the box does something, but it doesn't necessarily have to do anything because as people keep putting in, you just tell them that they're going to get 35% return on their money. And then when it returns 35%, everybody's happy and people put more money in. And who's to say that this box doesn't have value? It does have value because there's all this money in. And as people get more and more excited about it, more money goes in and more money goes in. And everybody is happy because they're getting this 35% return. And if you ever watch CoffeeZilla, you can see that interview with Sam Bankman-Fried where this is how he describes his DeFi systems that he built. And basically they were just a big Ponzi scheme. As long as people kept putting money in, people could take marvelous returns out. But when the bubble crashed and coin prices went down really fast, it bankrupted FTX, and all of a sudden the fraud was exposed, and now SBF is looking at quite a bit of jail time, along with his girlfriend. So, can you recommend any trustworthy sources to stay in tune when it comes to the blockchain/crypto news? Well, if you want to stay in tune with crypto news, Cointelegraph is good. Bitcoin.org is good. There's several out there. I don't keep track of the Bitcoin side of it much. If you want to find more about Bitcoin for business, you go to Oracle, you go to Google, and you go to IBM. Those are the three major vendors for building blockchains for business. So they have quite a stake in that and have good examples and good use cases. And in some cases, they could tell you about a deployed blockchain that has done well as also. So, okay, for those who've never bought crypto, is there a place or coin you would recommend to get your feet wet? I can recommend a place, and that's Coinbase. Coinbase is a U.S. company, so it stays in touch with SEC rules. I also say, though, that because they also have an education system in there where you can learn about various coins before you invest in them, and learn about investing before you spend any of your money. So Coinbase is a great place to start, especially for newbies. I started there when I was a newbie, and I just had never left. As I've seen others like Binance, get kicked out of the U.S. because they couldn't prove that they weren't a fraud, and how they were connected to FTX and were almost ready to bail them out, that kind of thing. So a place, I would say Coinbase. A particular coin, I'm not going to get into the business of recommending a particular coin. Not at all, because they all go up and down. And realistically, there's only the faith that people have that buy them as to what their value is going to be tomorrow. Okay? If somebody all of a sudden put out horrible inflammatory news about Bitcoin and how the network is just all a fraud, it could go down to nothing tomorrow. And there's just nothing supporting it. So I'm very cautious because there doesn't seem to be any sort of logic as to when it goes up and when it goes down. You would think it would, but the government has mucked it up so much with all of their regulations that it never has become the kind of network that Satoshi Nakamoto and whoever else was his group of friends envisioned for that network to be. So at this point, no recommendation. So, all right. Good questions, though. Great questions. I appreciate that. And yes, we'll see over the week. Chat with me on the email, and we'll post some more interesting news on that if you want me to keep track of it for the SEC. In fact, Robert, help me remember to put in an announcement, the SEC article that says, "Hey, we've been hacked," so they can get some, so they can know that I tell them the truth, the unadulterated gospel of blockchain. How about that? I think we better call an end to this. I'm going crazy. So
okay,
let's go ahead and call for roll call and see how many folks are still with us or how many I've put to sleep. So I really appreciate everybody coming. And we're going to have this fireside chat, so to speak, every week, 6 o'clock. We'll try to plan some fun things in the midst of the minutia I put you through tonight. Hopefully we'll make it a little bit more fun as we progress as well. I do have ways to do that too. So enjoy the class, ask frequent questions, and hope to see you again next week. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.